to be very, very concerned about whatever happens across the border, and because it concerns us in every way, politically, socially, economically, in all possible ways. It's going to have a telling effect on our way of life, on the way of life we live in West Bengal, and for that matter, rest of India and Northeast also. I don't want to, single out West Bengal alone, because Northeast is also impacted by whatever happens in Bangladesh. And because, after the regime change, it didn't happen during Mujib's time. Mujib was asked after liberation whether he was happy, because Bhashani in those days was talking in terms of having a greater Bengal. Greater Bengal chai. Mane Bihar, Bengal, Odisha niye ekta Greater Bengal. Mujib at that time had, said that I am happy with what I have got in terms of Bangladesh. এবং আমার অন্য কিছু দরকার নেই, আমার যা আছে তাতেই আমি খুশি. But that is not the case with the present generation of leaders that you have in Bangladesh across the border who are now ruling the country. So we have to be extra careful about whatever they say, do, and preach and practice. If you are not able to follow that, I think we are in dire straits. We are in dire straits. West Bengal and Northeast both are in dire straits. I don't know whether how much Delhi understands that, but I think the policymakers do. But things are pretty bad across the border. This much I can tell you. I'll come to this later. Now, first of all, as you know, this book is Mujib's Blunders, is a sequel to my first one, Bangladesh War, Report from Ground Zero, which was more a reportage on the battlefronts that I had been to on behalf of the statesmen, which I had covered on behalf of the statesmen from the battlefronts. And this book deals with, post-liberation, all the wrong policies and programs that the government took when Mujib came back from Pakistani jail, all the blunders that he committed. I have tried to chronicle them in a sequential manner for people to know what really went wrong. Whatever turbulence you are seeing in Bangladesh today is because of those wrong policies that Mujib had taken in then only. So this book is actually a very important part of that phase of the subcontinent history, which we ought to know by heart. I think it that way, because it touches every part of our life. It touches every part of our life, and now, why did I write this book, Mujib's Blunders? First of all, there was tremendous pressure from large world of academia that Dhaka and Chittagong University has, and they told me that, especially the historians, they told me that you have to come out with a book which tells everything, that whatever blunders that Mujib made have landed us in this mess today. So because Mujib, during Hasina's time and during Mujib's time, historians treated him with a kid glove. He was, all the blemishes that he had in his character were overlooked, never mentioned in a way. And, Tajuddin and those who fought the liberation war, led the liberation war, their names were not even mentioned in those history books that were written by the historians of that time. Even in the footnote, they didn't find any mention. So they said that, Manoj, you must, since you were among a handful of foreign journalists posted in Dhaka, we were about 10 of them, mostly Indians. From Hindustan Times, there was Dikto Sen, Kirit Bhaumik from Times of India, K.B. Das from All India Radio. There were a few others, Tushar Pandit from Anandabazar, Hindustan Standard. So, and there was one French journalist, fellow called Bushke. These were the only 7-8 journalists who were there, who had a ringside view of what Mujib was doing, and they said that you will be able to do justice because you had seen those days where Mujib was going wrong. So you just pin them down in a matter of in a straightforward manner, and that will be enough. And which I have tried to do in this book. I have not gone into the politics or the polemics of the politics of it, and I have read at length on why Mujib committed these blunders in a very straightforward manner, so that the reader is able to understand why Mujib did all this. Why did he, for instance, became anti-India from day one? Because very few, know that his nephew and Khodga Mushtaq were poisoning his ears about Tajuddin and his committed brand of freedom fighters who had led the war. So Mujib's ears were poisoned by these fellows, and I thought that I should come out with the real truth and tell the readers what kind of poisoning was done by his nephew Moni and Khodga Mushtaq. I have I've chronicled them at great length so that you will be able to understand the intricacies of Bangladesh politics which was on at that time. This is one. And secondly, the other consideration why I write this book was that my daughter was saying that, Papa, you must leave for posterity something to, the real truth must come out. When you die, because none of the other journalists had written a book on Mujib's failures. So you must write it down and in detail and come out with a book. So it was to honor her wishes, and also people like Professor Muntasir Mamun, Sirajul Islam Chaudhary in Dhaka of Dhaka University, Shahir Kabir, human rights activist, that I decided to pen this book. And moreover, for people to know why Mujib had become anti-India, because right from day one, he had underground relations with Mrs. Gandhi. I have mentioned that in my first book as well as in this book. And just to counterbalance India's growing influence in Bangladesh, just to if we could have Pakistan recognition, he thought that it would be, and China's recognition, that would be able to counterbalance India's growing influence in Bangladesh. So try to, he would instigate Maulana Bhashani to say very bad things about India, to say ill things about India, about, for instance, I have mentioned many things in detail. The Janata Sari episode, when you read this book, Bangla Doot, the ship that we give to Bangladesh as a gift, as a cargo vessel, which developed some snack, and such a hullabaloo was made out of that, snack that, India has given a junk and we have to bear all this nonsense from India. So all these I have, mentioned in these books, how Mujib was poisoned by a section of his kitchen cabinet as well as within his party to keep India in its place, as he used to say. But Mujib had many faults. For instance, he told Frost, what Frost was he? David Frost. He was asked, what is your greatest weakness? He said, I love my people too much. And indeed, it was so. He never thought that the colonels, majors and captains who were doing daily rounds of his house, Dhanmandi house, would come and kill him. Because he even had sorted out their marital problems. Zia, for instance, had serious marital problems with Khalida Zia. And Zia came and said that I can't live with this woman anymore. I tried to bring her to India during the liberation war. She refused. She said, I am happy with the Pakistani generals and the soldiers. That was Zia's reaction. So there are many anecdotes that you will find, real anecdotes you will find, which make this book interesting. And I'll come to the present situation now. What you are seeing now it's not a revolution. It's a huge conspiracy, international conspiracy, with the help of Islamists, world Islamists, various Islamist groups that are there, and of course with the help of America and Pakistan. American help is absolutely irrefutable. It just cannot be refuted. America just cannot ever in any way refute that its involvement in Hasina's ouster was responsible. So Pakistan too was responsible. This Hizb ut-Tahrir, it's a very it's a jihadist group which is very active. You see that, what has been the level of, this is where Hasina, like her father, failed miserably. He failed to see how the Islamists, especially the Jamatis, were infiltrating into the army. These days you will find, all kinds of clips, Bangladeshi troops, carrying AK-47, along with jihadists, in Pathan outfit and skull cap, carrying sniper rifles and AK-47 in their hands to kill activists in Gopalganj. What happened in Gopalganj? It's nothing short of it's a genocide. 15 people were killed in Gopalganj by the military without provocation, just because the locals were resisting these thugs, these two thugs who had gone from Dhaka to bring down Mujib's mausoleum in Tungipada in Gopalganj, and they were resisted. So the military just mowed them down with the AK-47 with the help of these Hizb ut-Tahrir, jihadists. So this is the level of penetration that has gone into the Bangladesh army, and I see a very kind of disturbing situation for India, because all the policies that this man, this Brahmin man is taking, all the policies that he is adopting are aimed at hurting India. Not 1,000 cuts, but 1,000, dismemberment of India. Dismemberment of India. That is his policy. That is what the Pakistanis are aiming at. That is what the Americans and Chinese are aiming at. And Bangladesh army is an instrument in the hands of these Islamists and foreign hands. So Bangladesh army, we should be very careful of how we deal with the Bangladesh army's threat. It's a real threat to India's security, especially in the northeast and in the east. In Thakurgaon, you have seen how they are trying to, improve that airport into a big Air Force base, so that, it's just throwaway distance from Doklam, and the Chinese will have absolutely a field day if they are able to get hold of Thakurgaon. So strategically, Bangladesh poses a huge threat to India's security, and we have to be very conscious of that. This book also provides some insights into that aspect of the security threat. I would request all of you to read it my book very carefully, more carefully than the first one that you had read,